What's up, everybody? It's your girl Barbie J here with the recap and review of Powerbook 3 Raising Kanan, Season 4, Episode 4, The Way We Were. Wasn't that song? Wasn't that song? The Way We Were. Anyway, the synopsis for this episode reads: Unique forms an unlikely alliance in his vendetta against Rock, while she inches closer to a new drug enterprise. Kanan takes advice from Snaps and Pops, and Jukebox's new friendship leads to a violent encounter. Ooh. And had not Marvin listened to Juke, I think things would have gone a little differently. But now we see how Juke starts turning. So before we get started with this recap and review, if you are new here or if you are returning here and have not subscribed to this channel as of yet, please take a moment right now, hit that subscribe button, then hit the notification bell and select all. It'll let you know every time I upload any new content to this channel. Then I ask that you hit that like button, which is a thumbs up button, write a comment and join the conversation, and share because sharing is caring. Now, the episode starts off with Tremont out on a balcony smoking a cigarette. He goes into his house and gets knocked down onto the floor by Marvin. Marvin puts him in a bin and takes him to some little area that looks like an empty swimming pool, it looks like. And he's beating him up. He's beating him up. And remember last week's episode, Rock said that they still owe Tremont for what he did to them. I don't remember what he did, but if anybody out there remembers what Tremont did, DeMarcus, you might remember because you have a good memory. But I don't remember what happened, a couple of seasons ago with him. So while Marvin is beating him up, we see Rock is at the house with her mama, and she's upset with her about inviting him over to dinner to tell him that she's dying of cancer. She just wanted her own moment and all this stuff. And they were going back and forth. The mother's like, you still blaming me for your father killing himself, and I didn't know what to do. I'm not perfect. She said we didn't need perfect. We just needed a mother. She said she didn't know how to be one. Sometimes she wasn't a good mother. She wasn't a good wife. She said, but she did the best she could. She said, well, we just needed you to care about us. She said, well, who would have cared about me if I didn't care about you? So they were back and forth arguing and stuff. And Rock grabbed her stuff and said, I can't do this. And the mother said, you can't never do this. Rock said, look, you want forgiveness and I can't give you that right now. And she bounced. And then she went to meet Marvin, who was in that, like I said, it looked like an empty swimming pool, beating up Tremont. And they had playing Russian roulette, swinging like they put a bullet in the chamber and they clicked. And they were scaring the mess out of him. Tremont was all beat up. He was shaking. He was like, what do y'all want? What do y'all want? And Rock said, we need the name to your heroin connect. And he said, that's all you needed? You could have been asked me that. And Rock said, we were just having fun with you, and showed him the chamber and saw that there was no bullets even in the gun. They had Tremont ishing and pissing on himself. I tell you. So now we see OC dropping off cash to Kanan at his new apartment. And I was so glad to see that he was still alive. And I'm trying to understand why Unique did not kill him, because he had to see his face. So I don't know what that's all about. Hopefully they'll let us know later on down the line. But why is OC still alive after seeing who Unique was that robbed him? So now OC leaves and Crystal's like, you shouldn't be doing any business here. That's why we left that other place. You have to keep them separate. Let him make the drops and that's it. And, Kanan's like, yeah, I get it. Because she said, we left just in time. He said, no, just in time would have been if I was there when that nigga got there and all this. I was like, Kanan, stop trying to be tough all the time. There is always somebody bigger and badder than you out there. So then there's a knock at the door and you hear Crystal go, she's here. And I'm thinking it was Rock, but it was Jukebox, and she was nervous. She said she hates me. Of course she hates you. You had your friends jump her, okay, and try to beat her up. Come on now, Crystal. So anyway, Jukebox comes in, and then Kanan talking about he got to bounce because he got something he got to do. And Jukebox like, I'll go with you. He said, no, maybe y'all could catch up and harmonize or something, He said, Crystal, show her around the place. And he kissed Crystal and they left. So she showed Jukebox the apartment, and then she apologized to Jukebox for what she did back in the day and stuff. And Jukebox reminded her that them girls was going to cut her and hurt her. And she said, I know that was effed up what I did. I was going through some stuff at home. Butter was all I had. And that was going to be my way out. She said, so now Kanan is your way out? No, no, I love Kanan, and Kanan loves you more than he ever gonna love me or anybody else. And Jukebox was trying to keep a straight face, but she was like, oh, really, huh? And she was telling her she needs them to be cool because if she matters to him, then Jukebox has to matter to her. And she said, I know it's messed up that I want us to be cool just because of my man, but maybe we could build from this, something like that, she said. And Juke said, maybe, and walked out. So now we at the studio with Lou and B Rilla, and this female comes in. She says her name is Imani Okie or something. She's the product manager for B Rilla. Talking about she's there to manage his presence and position in the marketplace. And B Rilla's like, what does that mean? She said, I'm here to help you sell records. And Lou's like, well, he ain't got no records right now. That's why we in the studio here working. And she said, well, let y'all continue to work. I just want to introduce myself. So she leaves. And B Real is like, what do you think about that? And Lou is like, look, don't nobody give you positioning. You got to take that position. And B Real was like, I hear that. So later on, we see Lou sitting in Lowell's office with Imani, and Lowell saying how he heard that Lou was very dismissive of Imani when she came in there. She said, I did not say that. I said that he was busy and I was interrupting him and making it. And Lowell was like, it's the same difference, you know. But Lou said, you know what? I was dismissive. He said, because when you asked me to sign up and do this gig, you said I'd be responsible for everything that had to do with B Rilla. You didn't say anything about anybody else working with them. He said, well, we need that. And you're going to be working along with her. So y'all need to get to know each other and blah, 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 blah. So Lou left out his office. Fine, whatever. So later on, Lou and Imani did meet at his bar club. What is that? Chez Vous or something like that. And they were talking, and she's like, oh, you own part with this and family, and getting to know each other, whatever. But they came to some understanding in regards to be realer, so that was good. So now we see Kanan going to meet Pops and Snaps, and he gives them the money he owed them, and they said, you're a little light, and he tells them that they got robbed, and and it's like, that's not their problem, they don't care. They start giving him advice on what he needs to do to become his own man and get out of his mother's shadow and stuff. And that's definitely something Kanan wants to do. And they tell him that Quan has been asking about who he is and want to put a face to the name. So they said, if that's something you're interested in, we can make that happen. And Pop said, just remember, what we do here is based on relationships. He said, does that resonate with you, son? And Kanan said, it resonates. Meanwhile, we see Jukebox Laverne. I'm gonna start calling her Laverne now because that's what they calling her in the gay bar. She's in there and she meets up with that girl Mara again. And as she's sitting at the bar, another girl on the dance floor is checking her out, and she comes over and offers Juke a drink, but Juke doesn't want one. And then they teasing Jukebox, saying you acting like how I was when I first started coming here and stuff. And they said something about this place is like family, and Mara said her family sucks. And Jukebox was like, oh, okay. But Jukebox didn't say anything. They just all got quiet. So they leaving, and they're supposed to be going to get some breakfast or something like that. It's early in the morning. And Mara sees this man watching, and she said, come on, let's go this way instead. And they start walking away. And she's like, what's going on? And she said, that's my husband. She's like, you're married? She said, technically. And the guy comes over, pushes Jukebox to the ground, grabs Mara, throw her in the car, talking about, you humiliating me, I should kill you, something like that. And Jukebox is just laying there on the ground. So she gets home, and she's bruised up and taking care of her wounds. And Marvin comes home and sees it and said, somebody put their hands on you? And Juke said, yeah. And y'all know what that means. Marvin is pissed right now. Even though he did that, put his hands on her one time back in the day, he felt real bad about it. And even Rock put him in check about that. So now we see Unique going to meet some guy that he and Rock took business from before. And the guy's like, yo, I thought you was 6 feet under. And he's telling him, you took everything from me. What do you want? And he said, I didn't do that. That was Rock. So Unique got it in his mind that Rock is taking all his business. But if folks think he's dead, life goes on. So I don't understand. That beating really messed his brain up some kind of way. Anyway, the guy invites him in, and Unique sets up this plan that he wants to hurt Rock and get back at her for what she did to them. And so they go to attack this warehouse where I guess she had business or supplies coming through or something like that. And they're shooting innocent people, killing them to hurt Rock's business. But I'm like, what kind of sense does that make? And what happened? That guy that he got involved, he ended up getting killed. And Unique got away. And when Rock found out and went there, they noticed who the guy was. They said, he's not the brains behind nothing. He's working with somebody else, came up with this. This guy wouldn't be able to do it. And the people who was in charge of the warehouse, they want it out. They don't want to have nothing to do with it. Everybody who's connected to you is getting killed or shot or their business is going down. And they were like, it's too late for that. You in this right now. So the nephew of the man who was saying no, the nephew was like, oh, no, 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 we staying in it. And Rock gave the money for, to make up for their loss. And he was like, no, that's not good enough. His nephew grabbed it and said, yes, it is. Don't worry about it. We good. I was like, this guy is crazy. So Rock wants to know who is doing this and doing all these hits. It got to be somebody they know. And Marvin's like, everybody on the street is like saying they don't know nothing. Now we see Unique meeting with Early, saying he ready to show his face. And Early's like, man, dude, if I was invisible, I'd be living life la vida loca. You know what I mean? He's like, but I'm up here doing nothing and Rock's out here taking my money. I was like, why does he think it's his money? Oh boy, that brain injury. Anyway, while they're talking, all of a sudden you hear Marvin come, yo, Early, you here? And he said, look, you want to show your face? Now's the time. And then Unique was like, you know what? I'm going to wait a minute. And he left out the back door and Early went out there to see Marvin. So Marvin thanked him for helping him with that ACS gig, getting to see, that little girl. But then he said he wanted to do something as a favor for him for doing that. And he asked him, was he still doing that bookie stuff? And he said, yeah, what you want to put your money on? He said, no. He said, I might have an opportunity for you in Corona. And he was like, okay, cool. So Marvin takes him to meet Stefano. Remember, Marvin killed Stefano's other guy, that black guy who was talking smack. So now he's sitting here bringing Early to Stefano and so they could talk, and he's vouching for this guy. So Stefano told him, you vouching for this guy, so if anything goes wrong, I'm coming at you. I'm looking at you. And he said, okay, fine. But here's where it's going to get messy, y'all, because Marvin doesn't know that Early is the one who's hiding Unique, and Unique's doing this stuff to his sister's business. Marvin is hooking you up while your boy Unique is tearing down his and his sister's business somewhat, because I think Marvin's involved in it some way too. If I'm wrong, put it down in the comment section. I'm not sure. So now we see Rock and Marvin meeting with this guy, Isak. And he's the connect, that name that Tremont gave them. And she tells him that she's not looking to be supplied. She's looking to be the supply, a direct link wholesale, And she said her product, her rules. And so he tells her to come back tomorrow, same time alone. So she can't come with Marvin. So she came back that next day looking fly. She had the little fur stole around her and stuff. And they took her through the restaurant and down the back steps and had her get into this car. She wasn't sure about it at first, but she got into a car and they drove her somewhere to meet with this guy who had this beautiful house and stuff. And they sat down and talked, and he said he would get back to her and let her know. So now we finally get to see Kanan meeting with Quan. And Quan is like, Kanan Stark. And he asked him, how was that 20% hike treating you? He said, it's okay. We just got to work harder, something like that. And Kanan says to him, if you ever need to discuss some stuff with me about my business, you don't have to go through our moms. You could come straight to me. She's only going to complicate stuff. My business is my business. And Quan looks at him and looks at his boys and they shake their head. I said, boy, you better stop always putting down your mama. You know what I mean? Because she's the one that had your back and will always have your back. And then the next thing you know, he goes to meet with Stefano. And Stefano looks at him like, what are you doing here? I do business with your mother. He said, your mother loves you. She asked for $500,000 to make it possible for you to be standing here, and you come behind her back. He said, I got 2 kids. I wouldn't even take a C note to help none of my ungrateful asses. So Kanan was like, I just came to introduce myself. He said, fine, now get out of here. Meanwhile, now we have Unique meeting with Mrs. Teresa Boselli, is it? Remember Sal Boselli? I think that's the one that Marvin killed in front of the church that day and shot him up when he was dressed like a postal worker. So Unique is telling her that the same people who killed your son and husband, they got blood on their hands for me too, or something like that. I don't know why he keep thinking Rock did something to him. But anyway, he said we have common enemies. And Teresa tells him she never got involved with the business. She don't know anything that's going on. But she gave him a name and number and said, tell him Sal's wife sent you and he's going to know what to do with you. I'm like, that could be good or bad. I don't know what. But anyway, Unique took the number and said, thank you. So now we have this quick scene with Kanan at Lou's apartment, and he gets to meet B Rilla and stuff like that. And Lou asks him, has he seen Fame? He said he talked to his sister, and she swears that he's nowhere in LA. So Kanan is like, I don't know, but everything I'm hearing about him is effed up. So they don't know where Famous is. So now we had this quick scene where these two detectives show up to Rock's house and let her know that Andre Barnes, her attorney, they found his body dead in his apartment. And they said they see that she had dinner with him shortly before that. And she said, they ain't had nothing to do with me. She said, he just my attorney. They said, whoa, 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 whoa. We're not suggesting that you're a suspect in any way. So she wasn't trying to give them any information, tell him any information. And they said, we're aware of your past, Miss Thomas, and your name always seems to pop up at the wrong times. And she gets up and says, like I said before, what happened to Andre ain't got nothing to do with me. So she's like, if there's not anything else, I have something to do. And then they tried to give the business card, but I don't know if she took it or not. I can't remember. But as soon as they was out the door, Rock was like, fuck. Because one of the things she asked him after that dinner is his connections to different people he knows in the NYPD and FBI, whatever. And she knows that his death is connected to her in some way. And so now the episode ends with Jukebox and Marvin. They in a car. She's telling him where Mara lives. And he goes and gets his gun ready. And she said, yo, this can't get wild. He said, I'm bringing this so it won't get wild. But she said, please leave the gun. He leaves the gun, goes up there, gets into a fight with this guy, back and forth. The guy cuts him with a knife. He's about to get stabbed. Thank God Jukebox was getting worried. She's seeing how long it took. She goes and grabs the gun and goes upstairs and ends up having to shoot the guy who was about to kill her father. If she had let him bring the gun in the first place, maybe none of this would have went down the way it did. So now Jukebox is a killer if that man died. So that's how it ended. Y'all let me know down in the comment section what y'all thought about this episode, and I will see you all in the next video. Please do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. It's your girl Barbie J saying peace.